through the printed word to us. Be diligent. Listen, if you will. Any ordained elders in here? Don't hold your hand up. We say this every time we ordain elders. Have in your remembrance how great a treasure is committed to your charge. For they up to whom you are to minister are the sheep of Christ, for whom he gave his life. I'm tired of these people. The church you serve is his bride and his body. I need to go to some folk who are ready to go somewhere. And if it shall happen, the church or any member thereof, Lord, have mercy on me. Because when I speak to you, I'm speaking to me. Do take any hurt or hindrance by reason of your negligence. I ain't going down there. They ain't going to be there on time anyhow. You know the greatness of your fault. Wherefore see that you never cease your labor. I give them more than their money's worth. And your diligence until you have done all that lieth in you. I don't know why they won't ordain me. I've been waiting 3 years. According to your bounded duty. I don't know why they can tell me what to do. I'm an elder just like them. To bring all such as are committed to your charge to perfectness, wholeness in Christ. Do you ever remember what we said at the altar? Timothy, be diligent in these matters. Give yourself to them so that everyone may see your progress. And this hits us. Us, not you, not them. I'm long past from that time, Bishop Hoyt at Fawcett Memorial, when I would try to preach at them on Sunday morning, and the very person I tried to preach at would say to me, as soon as church is over, you told them this morning. He says it is one thing to teach the right words, to rightly divide the word of truth. It is another thing to be the message we are called to teach. God calls us all, not just his preachers, to a holiness of life, to a life of godliness that reflects him. We are human, yes. Frail, yes. Deficiencies, yes. But whether young, like Timothy, or old and inexperienced in this endeavor, or whether pure in life or encumbered with our baggage, the messenger of God is challenged to persevere in guarding his life. And the good news is, if you failed yesterday, you can start again today. And in so doing, he says, you not only save those who hear you, God works salvation in your life too. Let us conclude these series of lessons by focusing upon the phrase that begins verse 13. Until I come. I remind you, if you were here on Tuesday, that there is some sense that the genre or literature type, and that's what the word genre means. It's a type. Just like the hymns are a genre of church music and the contemporary gospels are another genre of church music. And praise songs are another genre. The New Testament literature, they're different kinds of literature. There are the Gospels. Even in the Gospels, there are parables. It's a genre of literature. There's the possibility here now in 1 Timothy that this genre of literature, we said Tuesday, is not just a letter to Timothy, but a letter also through Timothy to the hearers of the church in Ephesus. That is to say, it may be a letter intended not just for Timothy's eyes, but for the ears of all the members of the church. Intended to be heard by all of them. And if that is the case, it is intended to be instructive for Timothy, yes. But it is also intended to undergird Timothy's authority. To give Timothy a portfolio, a pastor's appointment certificate. As Paul's delegate, as Paul's assistant, it's a genre of literature known more at that time as a royal commandment. Possibly. But where am I going with this? Whether it is or isn't. This is where we are going. The phrase, until I come, however we hear it, whether as a word to Timothy only, or as a word to Timothy and the whole church, tells us that Paul intended to come back into his rightful place as leader in the Ephesian church. But did Paul ever get back? And what did Timothy do in the meantime? When we read 2 Timothy, there is no indication that Paul ever returned to Ephesus before 2 Timothy was written. And there is indication in 2 Timothy, in that passage we love to quote in the 4th chapter, that Paul was really at that point in prison. He says, I am ready to be offered up. He says, I'm already being poured out like a drink offering. And the time of my departure is at hand. He says in verse 16, as if he's already gone before a judgment, at my first answer or at my first defense, nobody stood with me. Everybody deserted me. The purpose of the question of whether Paul was in prison points to this, that Timothy is instructed in this 13th verse of the 4th chapter of 1 Timothy to do these things until I come, and he may never have gotten there. Now I must say to you that in my own spiritual study and journey, in preparation for these 3 days, there has been a theme and a summary thesis for each day. For the first day in my spirit, the theme was the aim of our preaching, teaching, and worship. And that theme centered around chapter 1, verse 5, where he says, the goal of the command is love, which comes from a pure heart and a good conscience and a sincere faith. And on yesterday, for me, the theme was toward a life of godliness, with emphasis upon the passage in verse 7 of this chapter, where Paul urges Timothy to train himself, even as an athlete would train for godliness. But the theme for this closing day in my spirit is what I would call the until perspective.